Our group is going to talk about vendor and account services. And I'm going to start just by talking about 13 essentials for your private practice paperwork, which is basically a review of what needs to be in a consent form, a review from ethics, what needs to be in our consent forms. Number one, explanation to the limits of confidentiality. We need to be clear on what those limits are and what it means to be a mandated reporter. Number two, court-ordered and legal issued subpoenas. We need to be clear about how to handle that and the fees that are involved. Number three, make sure to get a release of information from anyone collaborating with the case, and if it's a couple, make sure that we have both signatures. Number four, dual relationships. How will we manage relationships with clients outside of therapy and clearly defining what that will be like if we see clients in public. Number five, clear social media policy. What is the policy about social media, and is it in the consent form? So boundaries on friends and followers on different private social media accounts, and making sure that that's clear with clients before it becomes an issue. Number six, electronic communication policy, which includes text, email, and teletherapy, making sure that we have HIPAA compliant, confidential platforms for communicating electronically with clients. Number seven, risks and benefits of therapy should be clearly laid out for clients. Number eight, structure and length of therapy should also be clear. What can clients expect from intake to termination? Number nine, disclose fees prior to entering the therapeutic relationship, and then make sure that we give copy of these to clients. And if we are keeping credit cards on file to charge for no-shows or other reasons, we just want to make sure that we're clear and review the policy with clients. Number 10, be clear about the scheduling process. Do clients want us to call, text, email? Number 11, be clear about the cancellation policy with clients. And this helps clients take the therapeutic process seriously. Number 12, communication policy in the event of a crisis. How do you want clients to handle it? And what the expectations are as far as contacting therapists out after hours and no-show policy and fees. And finally, number 13, minor consent differs from state to state. So just make sure that with when we're working with minors that we know who the legal guardian is and who has consent to sign, and all the legal that goes with working with minors. Next, treatment plan template. So ethically, we need to have a treatment plan for our clients. The format will depend on whether you bill insurance and if you have a private practice, versus if you're working for another clinic. And this can be a simple sentence or two in your progress note, or it can be a one-page template with goals, treatment recommendations, and outcomes. The easiest thing to do, they recommend, is just to pick something and use it with all the clients for the simplicity's purpose. And progress note template is also recommended. Keep these notes short and sweet, but don't skimp on the important stuff like missed sessions, follow up after high risk situations, and consultation with colleagues regarding ethical dilemmas. Also, the recommendation would be to use a consistent template like the DAP, Data Assessment Plan, or the SOAP, Subjective Objective Assessment Plan. And lastly, it recommended that when we talk to clients, sometimes clinicians worry that they're trying to sell a client to come in, and it talked about being confident that people reached out because they want to come and talk to us. They want the help. So going into those conversations with clients, being as confident as we can, understanding that they want to hear what we have to say and want to actually come in and set up an initial contact is recommended. Okay, next slide is vendor services. What is a vendor management plan? So step one, there's 4 steps here. I'm just going to run through them really fast. Identify the information your vendor accesses. So some of the questions that you'd ask in this case is, what is the role my vendor is playing in my business? What company information does the vendor need to meet these needs? What employee information does the vendor need? What customer information does the vendor need? And so on. So that would just be what you'd want to ask for step one. Step two, set a risk tolerance for vendors. Does this vendor play a critical role in my business operations? How much company information does the vendor need? How much customer information does the vendor need? So you're kind of assessing what the the risk and what information, so that you're not providing more than is needed for the vendors. Step 3 is creating procedures to guide your vendor relationship. So they call it an SLA, a service level agreement contract, that outlines the role your vendor will play in the company. So when you're creating the SLA, you want to incorporate access authorization protocols, information access controls, password management requirements, anything that a vendor would need in order to provide the services that you're asking for. Step 4, ongoing vendor monitoring. This would be reviewing the reports from the vendors, making site visits, and engaging with vendor audits either annually or more frequently, and reviewing the security documentation is what is needed for the vendor management plan. So now I'll turn it over to Michaela.
Okay, so the next part of this module is just talking about office space, and there's two kind of main sides to deciding what to look for in an office space. The first one is the business side, not our favorite side, but this section talks a lot about the cost. And so when it comes to renting business space, there's a few different options. Sorry, breathing heavy, my cat just peed on the carpet. The first option is leasing. The reading went over that leasing contracts or agreements can be kind of a medium commitment. So it can be 6 months to a year to up to 3 to 5 years. And so one thing to keep in mind when you are thinking of what kind of office space is going to be best for my clinic is just that kind of time commitment. Next is renting or subleasing, which is probably the smallest time commitment. The reading said that sometimes those aren't even like very well written contracts. In these kind of situations, you're really just renting hours or days out of the week from an existing office. It's a more short-term agreement. Sometimes it may go by you're renting it for a certain amount of hours per week, days per week, or weeks per month. The last option is really own. So owning is obviously going to be the most expensive. When you're looking for a space, it's going to need to be zoned for commercial use, and it's going to require much more money up front. So a down payment and then a mortgage from then on. But long term, it saves you more money, allows you to make more money and profit. Additional build-up costs to your office space is going to be like moving, down payments, and furnishing. Oh, next slide. Okay. The nicer or funner part about thinking about your office space is going to be the design of it. Even as therapists, we need to keep in mind what our space looks like and how we can strengthen the therapeutic relationship through our space. Some things to keep in mind are just location. What are your neighbors like? What is the outside of the building going to look like? How is the building in general serving your needs therapeutically and as a business, as well as accessibility. So depending on your main clientele, is your office going to be accessible to them? Design, one of the readings went into pretty great detail of what kind of design is better, has more useful and welcoming elements, especially for therapy. On the top, I kind of put not a great example of what we would probably want a therapy office space to look like. It's kind of cold, it's kind of empty, it doesn't really feel cozy or welcoming. One thing that the reading emphasized was elements like natural elements, natural colors. Light was a big thing. Plants can be nice. Positive distractions. So just having not an empty office space like the top option where there's not a lot of places for your eyes to go outside of looking your therapist directly in the eye. Having some art on the wall, having some plants, having other things to make your client more comfortable. The next part is the reading was on electronic records and software. Electronic medical records or EMR software. Those softwares are going to focus more on your case notes, treatment plans, diagnoses, assessments, things that are necessary to the clinical part of therapy. Practice management software is going to be more dealing with those front-end tasks like scheduling, insurance eligibility, client demographics. But most of the systems that we use now integrate both of those. So, for example, my office uses Simple Practice. All of these things are in the same place, and it makes it easy for clinicians and administrative staff to work together efficiently.
Is this the slide that doesn't belong to anybody?
That's the slide that is not full.
Okay, so we will delete
You
that
can
one
skip
in
that.
the real version. Okay, so now we're going to talk a little bit about credit card processing, just how it works. Our clients as cardholders give us, the merchants, their credit cards. And from there, we need something. This is like a credit card machine or the Square app, something like that, something called a service provider or an acquiring processor. This is the machinery or application that talks to the credit network, Visa, MasterCard, all those folks. Those folks talk to the cardholder's bank and say, hey, can this person make this purchase? And they say, yeah, sure, we'll hold that amount in their account. Go ahead and credit it to them. Then Visa goes through our credit card machine and lets us know, yeah, that's fine. And it's accepted, and we print a receipt, give it to the cardholder. What we don't usually see is that merchants then run batches for approval, usually at the end of each day. So they talk back to the credit card companies and say, hey, remember to get our money. They talk to the bank, they actually get the money. And then the credit network gives a fee to the service provider, to our machines, and then sends the rest of it to our bank. And then the part we're familiar with as consumers is that Visa says, hey, pay your bill, and then we do with interest. But the part of all of this process we're going to talk about is this middle section right here, the service provider or acquiring processor, the way that we're able to take credit card payments. So these are the top credit card processing companies. I've never heard of any of them, but I guess merchants who do a larger scale business are very familiar with these. We need to know that we're going to be paying some fees, 2 to 5% for our credit card machine. We're going to be paying our banks to be able to receive credit card payments. And then if customers get angry and require a chargeback from their credit card company, then their bank's going to charge the $10 to $50 fee, depending on the bank. One part I am familiar with is using Square for customer payments, because we actually do this at my offsite. It is a benefit over the inconvenience of cash and checks, which often lead to missed payments. It also accepts both debit and credit, and you can invoice your clients for things like telehealth no-shows, forgotten payments, things like that. It's HIPAA secure if you have a business associate agreement, which you should, and you can also accept financial savings account and health savings account cards. It is a positive client experience from what I've seen. And this wasn't actually mentioned in the article, but it has an option to save the client credit card. I personally don't like asking for client credit cards. So if I can ask once and save it on my Square app and then just run it from then on when they come in, it's a huge it's a huge convenience for me. Also, fun fact, depending on the state, it may not be legal to pass on processing fees to our clients. I hope it's legal in Utah, because that's what my offsite does. We'll talk a little bit about voice over IP providers. So this is voice over internet protocol. It's basically a phone line delivered to us over the internet. It also has some other more advanced features. And again, you need to sign a BAA. These are the 4 most popular companies that provide voice over IP services. You can also use your Google Voice account if you go through some extra hoops to make sure that it's HIPAA compliant. There's a great video Rich put in the module that outlines the details of this, but basically you need to HIPAA secure your Google Suite, sign a BAA with all of that, which will take a monthly fee, and then you also pay an additional monthly fee to be able to have the Google Voice option added to it. But overall, it's like I think $10 to $30 for the Google Voice number.
Okay, so now last section is on creating and printing business cards, and then also doing your websites. So just some tips. One, this is having a business card is one of your biggest marketing tools, because as you're giving them away to people, people are going to have them in the car, they're going to have them on their refrigerators, they're just going to have them as they pull out their wallets and their purses and stuff. So it's really important to work on a design that makes people want to come and see it. So it is smart to hire a graphic designer, although it is not necessary, because there's so many different websites out there that have options to kind of create your own. The really important thing is make sure you triple check that spelling is all right. address is right, phone number is right, because it can be really costly to reprint. This is a great time to make sure you have your business logo, and to create that, that's where a graphic designer would be helpful. And then just to make sure that your colors on your business card, your logos, and your website are similar, if not exactly the same, just to have that cohesion there. And then you want to stand out, you want to be different, but it is smart to be standard size because that'll fit into a wallet. It's just easy to carry around. I've seen some cool ones that are not, So I think some of these things that are kind of unique to what we can do with our business cards is that you can make an appointment reminder on one side. You could also do some affirmations, some like positive things or stress skills that could be on the other side as a reminder. You could do breathing exercises. And then the other thing that is new is that a lot of business cards now have a texture on it that can also be something that a client could do just to kind of soothe themselves if they're worked up. Okay. And then lastly, on the print and design, there are several companies who do it. You can see on the left, these are Vistaprint is ranked #1, Staples is basic, Jukebox is known for having complex. I really liked that Zazzle was best for stunning cards. And then Print Place is kind of interesting because you can have those folded business cards. I don't know that you want those for every occasion, but they might be really interesting if you want to have some tools on a business card. So some of the out of the box ideas is Persnickety Prints is local, and I know the owner, and she would literally be happy to sit down with anyone and help them create theirs. Probably no charge. Canva's super easy. Minted, Shutterfly, Snapfish, any of those picture places all have business card designs that you can do. Okay, so managing and creating and managing a website. First, it's really important to obtain a good domain name. So this is your website address, and it's really important to make sure it's short, it's memorable, and it's just simple so people can get onto it really quick. So then purchase secure website hosting with good tech support. And so I didn't really know about this, but there's a website host and they will give you technology services. You can text them anytime something isn't working right. So this can be anywhere from $2 a month to $1,000 per month. And the article talked about a middle one is a virtual private server and generally costs about $20 to $50 a month. But often you can get a better deal if you just pay yearly. Okay, and then prominently display a clear description of your business. So as soon as the client gets on your website, they can see you're a therapist, what services you provide. They don't have to go digging around because that is really frustrating. 4, implement the best content management system. And that is a software program that is used to create and manage digital content. A good one will be easy to use and you don't need very much technical knowledge to use. So that's a win. There is WordPress. It's highly recommended because it's really easy to know. However, their security is a little weak. And you have to make sure you're managing that all the time. Drupal was another one that said it has more security, but doesn't have as many plugins and themes that you can use. Create an interesting, memorable, and engaging website user interface. So this is make sure your fonts are easy to read, graphics are pretty, they're not blurry. And then it also recommends to get on and look at all your competition, look at their websites and see what you like and see how you can obviously shift it, don't still, shift it to match what meets you. 6, optimize your small business website for search engines. So if someone types in therapists near me, that you're one of the ones who's popping up first, or if they're looking for an IFS therapist or EMDR, that you have things on your website that makes it so you are searched near the top. And then 7, regularly create and publish quality content. So this actually helps with that SEO, because as you're putting new information and changing and updating your website, it's also going to increase how your website comes up on a search engine. And this would be a great place for a blog, testimonials. Install webmaster tools, and these are like your analytics. Google has quite a few that you can put on, and it just monitors how much traffic you're getting, if any links are broken or anything like that. So something good to monitor daily. 9 is implement a website maintenance plan. So making sure like what you need to check daily, weekly, monthly, because the worst thing is to have it go stale after a time. So, and then the last slide is just some of those website company builders that work best for small businesses. Wix and GoDaddy are free. The other ones do charge a pretty minimal. I think it was like under $4 a month. So that is it for the vendors and accounts and services section. Let us know your questions and we'll get back to you. Thanks, guys.